Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Beretta 92/PX4 safety. So it has a frame mounted or a slide mounted safety instead of a frame mounted safety. This gets a lot of criticism, but first thing in this video is I want to talk about why it has a slide mounted safety and how it works. So we'll go ahead and get a close up on this. Okay, so with the slide mounted safety, obviously it goes up and down, right? Now, some people don't like the fact that it does that. It just swings forward, and, they don't like that it's not a frame-mounted safety. Well, here's the thing. They don't understand why it's designed the way it is, and I want to go ahead and explain that. So, basically, the way it moves back and forth, if you can see here, this little piece right here goes back and forth, and it rotates the little striker for the firing pin out of the way. So that's what that does. It moves it out of the way so the hammer can never hit it. So when it's going down like this, it's not going to hurt it. It's not going to hit anything. So some people say they don't like how loud it is. Well, if you're decocking the gun, that means you're not engaging anything anymore, right? So who cares about the noise? So yeah, other than that, I have no opinion. But then also, a lot of people don't understand how it actually drops the hammer. Well, we'll go ahead and just take it apart here. And so, on the slide, you can see, if you look here, I don't know if you can see this, but basically, if you get it zoomed in here, then basically you'll see that this piece, this little shiny piece that comes up, basically creates a bulge. That is pushing a piece down in the frame. That piece is right here. So that's this piece. It pushes down on this piece in order to push the hammer forward. Basically, all this piece does is actually move the sear forward. So when you're pulling the trigger, you're moving the sear forward. So, and you're moving, yeah, they're moving the sear forward out of the hammer's way. This piece is also doing that. It's pushing the sear forward. So that's all this piece does. So pretty simple. It's a simple machine doing a simple task and making this gun one of the most safe guns out there. So anyways, that's basically how the slide mounted safety works. It's not a flaw. It was designed for a specific reason. This is not uncommon. It's not uncommon to actually have this design out there. So when you're flipping it up out of the way, it's ready to go. So when you're flipping it down, you're decocking it, and you're keeping it decocked, you're keeping it drop safe, you're keeping it completely capable of, being safe all the time, I guess you could say. So anyways, let me go ahead and show you how to use this. Okay, so we're going to start with talking about loading the pistol. Now, the big gripe about this safety is that it can be, turned on by racking it, right? Well, when you're loading a pistol, this is different than reloads. You have slide serrations here. You can grab these and actually have it at the bottom part here, and basically just pulling it and kind of canting or turning the wrist upwards. So that's not really that big of a deal. Then when you're loading it, you can just grab it with two fingers in front of the safeties and actually use the little safeties as, little support wings, kind of like the VP9 has charge supports. So you just pull it back and pull up to release. It's really not that difficult. So we do that again. Basically, one of the other ways is power stroking. If you're going to power stroke it and you flip the safety on, all you got to do is a verification sweep. If you just do this motion right here, you're going to be able to feel if the safety is there or not. If it's not in the way, you're not going to be able to feel it. It's called a verification sweep. If it's there, okay, then you just flip the safety off. But typically when you're loading, it's because you're about to holster or you're about to shoot. So you're probably going to want the safety on. But it depends on what you're doing. If you're just loading for the range, whatever, right? So just do a verification sweep. It really doesn't take that much time. for those of you that like to put your safety on when you reload, for whatever reason, who like to flip their safeties on in the middle of a reload, then you shouldn't have a problem with this, because you like having your safeties on at ridiculous times anyways. And then you can do a verification sweep, and you'll know that it doesn't take very long, that once you reload, to just do a verification sweep on the way out. So anyways, with all that said, that's loading. So again, I'll just go over this just one more time, then we'll get to shooting. So basically, you have the safety off, or like me, I like to have it on anyways, and so I would flip it down, but we'll just have it off. So then you charge it, and the safety didn't go off that time, but I still do a verification sweep because I'm not looking at my gun when I'm loading it. I only look at my gun if I actually have something going on with it, and the safety going on and me doing a verification sweep and seeing it on, all that's going to cause me to do is take it off, and then I can get to shooting. So no big deal. Alright, but if you wanted to keep it in single action, just cock the hammer. So that's as simple as it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and go to the left side so I can show you how to manipulate this safety. Okay, so the first thing we need to go over is when to manipulate the safety. So typically, if you're going to be carrying this pistol and you're not going to get like the decocker only version, then you're going to need to know when to take the safety off. And typically that's going to be about this area right here, so about retention area. Same as pretty much anything that has a manual safety on it, right? So basically you're simulating the draw. This is an acceptable fighting, position, I guess you could say, for the pistol. So basically go from here and you decock, and if you're at presentation here, if you're at the start of your presentation, you basically, once you spot a target or whatever, then you take the safety off and then put it back on. Now I know some people are going to be like, well, you can decock and then take it back off and then you have a double action. Sure, that's fine, but you still got to get in the habit of manipulating that safety. And if you are one of the class that believes in a universal method for everything, then why not apply that? It's a simple sweep and you're good to go. So basically go from here and there you go. That's as simple as it is. It doesn't take very much time. You take the safety off and that's basically it. So now let's go ahead and talk about how to manipulate this safety. Okay, so with this safety, it's pretty simple. I mean, yes, it's slide mounted. It's a little bit more awkward than a frame mounted safety, but you gotta know the system that you're using. So basically with this, all you do is you sweep and push a little bit forward. So the way I do it is basically pushing forward and up, kind of following this ramp a little bit, but you can do a bit of a sweep, so it's like a forward sweep where I stiffen out my thumb as I'm going out, so it's kind of pushing it forward, as I'm more pushing this direction than just camming my thumb. So that's basically what you got to do in order to get it into position. So basically you just keep your thumb in this position, or you can actually have a 90-degree bend and just extend out your thumb like that. It's actually not that hard to deactivate this safety. You just got to know how to pre-position your thumb. It's like a 1911 basically. Now for those people that want to be able to decock or put the safety on with one hand, I would actually go as far as to say that's kind of ridiculous, because if you're putting the safety on, there's not really that much of a threat going on to justify that. So basically I would just use my support thumb right there, and when I pull in, all I do is I push down like that, and then I'm pre-positioned and I'm good to go. So with all that said, I'm going to now go over the proper reload for this pistol. Okay, so now going over the reloads, the proper way to actually do the reload is with the slide release. So basically magazine out, and you're good to go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and swap these mags out, so got one in there. Now, some people don't like that. They like to be able to power stroke, right? Well, this is where the verification sweep actually comes in. So, if you're going to be power stroking it, basically, you have the risk of, pulling the safety off because you're not familiar with, slingshotting, or you don't want to slingshot. I'm not really a slingshot advocate myself, but basically, when you do that and you want to power stroke, all you have to do is a verification sweep, and I did it very gently that time. So, basically, I'll decock right here, and we'll go ahead and run this again, and I'll go ahead and power stroke and purposely set it on. And I even failed there. So, when you're power stroking, the habit that I've gotten into is actually canting my wrist away and presenting my palm forward. So I'm kind of messing up my own video here. That's cool. Alright, so there we go. So then it's just a verification sweep, and then you're back on double action. Boo-hoo. So the verification sweep, I'm going to go ahead and show you how easy that is. And, well, that was a little tough. So, well, we got some little issues. I'm going to go ahead and diagnose this and figure this out, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so just fixed up the issue there, and basically the magazine had like a piece of bark or whatever that was actually creating a tight fit. And since I haven't lubricated the mag well and everything else and all the other excuses, I guess Berettas are just unreliable, right? So I had a stuck magazine. So I just had to take the slide off and, push it out a little bit. But anyways, as I was saying, a verification sweep. So if you are going to power stroke it, let me go ahead and show you show you my method for verification. And this is about as habitual as those who like to use the safety on their AR during a reload, as if the gun's going to go off during a reload with no round in the chamber. But anyways, so you do that, you reload, you power stroke, and then you, as you saw there, before my hands were even, my other hand was on the pistol, I had flipped the safety down. And this didn't require me to look at my gun. This was just a movement of my finger, and I used the 90 degree method, where I was already compressed and I just did this. It was just a verification. So I'm going to go ahead and run this again and see if I actually deactivate the safety this time. So do that, power stroke it, verification, and my safety wasn't on that time, but I still did the verification sweep. It took me no time. As I was doing my extension, I was doing my 90 degree push forward, and again, you're pushing your thumb forward, and that's the method. And you can do this method, but again, where you have your thumb straight up, but again, make sure that you're pushing your thumb up and forward. So it's kind of like doing this, not camming it down like a 1911. So it's going to require a little bit of a different manual of arms, but it won't slow you down if you understand how to use it. So those who are worrying about power stroking and turning their safety on, it's really not that big of a deal. However, let's go ahead and start talking about using this slide mounted safety with gloves. Okay, so now we're going to go over with gloves, and I have one of my favorite gloves on, the First Tactical gloves, and this is a medium padded duty glove. I don't think they're even selling these things anymore, but it's one of my favorites. It fits like a surgeon glove, right? And you always think that if they fit good, it's going to be good. Well, like things like mechanics gloves, they have pretty thick padding, and this is basically like filling in your grip more. And this is where this can kind of be a little bit difficult, but pretty much manipulating any safety can be a little bit difficult with your shooting hand. So depending on the glove you get, it might limit your mobility And so like doing verification sweeps or even from the draw, you might have a little bit more harder, a little harder of a time manipulating it properly. So from here, typically when I draw it, I have to use my 90 degree. I can't get away with just sweeping it forward because this area is built up to where it's actually pushing my finger back, and since I already am kind of at a disadvantage by having smaller hands, I gotta basically accommodate that by using a different method, which is just pushing the safety forward, using my 90 degree push, if you will. So that's just a consideration. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a reload just to kind of show. So take that one out, and then a verification sweep, and it takes a little bit to readjust and get back on it, but it's really not that big of a deal if you do it correctly. You can get in that motion, but it may require you to actually readjust your hand a little bit, but it depends on the glove again. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch to another glove and show you the difference. Okay, so now I've got Nomex flight gloves on. Now you can see the difference here is it just has the Nomex around this area. This is one of the areas that you want to watch out for on gloves, to see if this area is overly padded, because this isn't going to take away the grip as much, especially around the safety area. So with this one, I can barely hit the safety in this area still, but when I do my 90 degree, I actually have enough grip. This is a pretty good material for actually grabbing and pushing. So we'll go ahead and do reload on this one. So sweep, take it off, and then reload, and then my verification sweep. And it doesn't really take that much time to do that. So a verification sweep when you reload, if you want a power stroke, is fine. However, again, as I said earlier, that's if you're really dead set on power stroking. Now, of course, if you have malfunctions, then this is something you need to know anyways. But for the reload, this is how you're basically supposed to do it. Basically, just retract the magazine, use the stop or slide release, and that's how it's supposed to be used. You just use the slide release. That's why it's so big, and that's why, if you look at the frame and the slide release itself, how it's built up to actually be able to be used. And for most pistols, you can use it. Even if it's really small like the Glock, it's not going to prevent you from using it. But sometimes, like the Glock, if you use it all too much, it is going to wear. And then it'll get to the point eventually, like on some of the Glocks I owned in the past, where I was actually doing that method, where it wore it so much, sometimes it wouldn't even want to lock back if there was no magazine inserted and I was just trying to lock it back, and all it took was a little bit of whacking to get it to go forward, because it was so worn, and it had created kind of ground itself down to be in an angle. So you just got to watch for that on your pistols. So this one is designed to use this as a slide release. So with all that said, I don't want to beat a dead horse too much, but the Beretta safety is really not that hard to use. It just depends on how you're using it. If you're using it the way it was designed to be used, then it's not really going to be a problem. It's pretty simple to learn, but spend some time on it, and I think you'll end up liking it just as I have. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching. You guys have a good one.